watching O-Face Wrestling. This is Amber Rodriguez, and you're listening to O-Face Wrestling Podcast.
That's right. O-Face Wrestling. Listen to the podcast. Listen. They are Dark Side approved. Howden approves it. O-Face Wrestling. I'll be listening. Will you?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O-Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I am joined by Amber Rodriguez and Gia Scott. So what's up, ladies?
Hello.
So thank you for joining us today here at O-Face Wrestling. So this episode is going to be, one of our special episodes for our 1-year celebration of being, a show. We literally started last year in June, and, I wanted to put together some special episodes. So, you two were two of, my favorite guests that I had on the show, and I just thought it would be really cool, especially because when I interviewed you, Gia, you had mentioned that you were actually a big fan of Amber back when she wrestled at MCW. So it's like you were a fan in the crowd, watching her wrestle, and now you're actually wrestling for MCW and you're the current women's champion. So I thought that would be cool to pair you up together in one of our episodes.
Well, thank you.
So, ladies, ever since, I last interviewed you, which I had you both on my January episode. So just tell me a little bit about, how things have been, since then. I know, Gia, you were a part of the very first ever women's chairs match at the MCW event, at the Winter Blast event. So starting with you, tell me a little bit about that match, because I know that was a pretty scary match to be in.
Okay. So while I was told that I would be having a chair match with Aria Palmer, I was kind of freaking out because, number one, at that point, I'd never gotten hit with the chair before. So I was just like, okay. What else? Oh, and then we had to go over the match of how it was supposed to go. And then my coach, RJ, he was like, okay, we're going to do this Tower of Doom thing. And I'm like, okay, so what is that going to involve? He's like, lots and lots of chairs just stacked up. And I'm like, okay, I've never fallen through a pile of chairs before, but sure, okay, we'll try this. So the day comes where the match is supposed to happen, and I'm freaking out. I'm normally not freaking out at this time because I usually get the little butterflies, but then once I come out, my music hits, I'm like, okay, I'm in my zone. But that day, I was just like, oh my God, I'm super nervous right now. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. Just remember the stuff that you need to do, and you'll be fine. So while doing the match, there were things that I thought okay, I could have done better. I should have done better, but I was just like, this is my first match. It's fine. So we get towards the end of the match, and that's where things go downhill. And I'm hitting Aria with the chair back to back to back to back. And then my ref, his name's Jason, I thought I heard him say, hey, Gia, take it home. It's time to go home. I'm like, oh God, we gotta go. We gotta rush. So I bring her to the top turnbuckle, and I'm getting her set up, and we're about to fall through the chairs. So set her up, boom, we fall through the chairs. And I'm fine. I'm thinking oh, that didn't hurt too bad. I was worrying about that for nothing. But I cover her, 1, 2, 3, match is over. I come to the back. RJ's like, what the heck is wrong with you? Oh my God, I can't even with you. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, wait, what's wrong? He was like, you could have died. And I'm like, huh? So I walk past him, I walk past Rich, and then Dean comes up to me. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's wrong? He's like, you legit almost died. I'm like, what is everybody talking about? So I ended up getting the video from you and Chrissy, and I saw it back on Twitter, and I'm looking at it, and this is one little chair that has its legs sticking up to where it could almost pierce me or it almost pierced her. And thank God I ref Jason. He moved it out of the way to where it didn't hurt us. And I'm just like, oh my God, he moved out perfectly. And if we would have landed on it, one of us would have definitely gotten hurt. So I was just like, oh my God, I could have really died that night. So that lesson taught me to look for my surroundings and make sure everything is set before I actually go. the end.
It's funny because in the video I noticed that the ref, you said Jason was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him like moving the chair around and all that, and then the suplex and all. How much like how painful was it going through all those chairs?
I think my blood was just pumping at the moment because I felt like that was just going to be the most painful throughout the whole entire match. Any kind of chair shots that took, I felt like that was going to be the most painful. So while I'm falling, I'm like, I hit the chairs and like it hurt like for like a second, but I was like, oh, that's not that bad. I was worrying for nothing, so it felt fine. It was like literally a quick like a tap and like that was it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I remember you like had the loudest scream like right as you were like lifting her up, and I was just like, yeah, that's definitely war scream right there. So,
Yeah.
Amber, since the last time that we recorded, what have you been up to?
Besides staying in my house every day. Before this pandemic happened, I actually made several debuts that I'm really proud of. One being Elevate Pro, which has become like a new home for me. I debuted at Title Match Wrestling's Ladies Night Out, which was held at the Booker T World Gym Arena. So that was great. Super honored to work there. Shout out to Telly for that, by the way. Where else? Texas Wrestling Entertainment, which for those of you who don't know, used to be Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy before Rudy Gonzalez took it over. And that was great to work there and just have that experience and learn from him. Rudy's become like a mentor to me since then. What else have I done? Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. That was a great experience. Super chill locker room. And I feel like I'm forgetting a whole bunch of stuff right now, but I'm sure it'll come up.
Yeah, that one debut you said you had Title Match Network. Yeah, I was watching that because that was streaming. I think it was on YouTube. Maybe it was streaming on my. I have a friend on Twitter who's like even bigger with the indies than I am, and he's like always like pushing me because he's also like a big fan of women's wrestling. He's been pushing me, and he kept telling me because I had posted something about you on Twitter. He's like, "Oh, well, she's about to have a match against so and so," and I got on YouTube and I was able to catch it in time. But yeah, like since this, obviously, there's only been like what 2 or 3 months of wrestling, prior to the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So there's only so much you could really do. So like, so tell me, like, what are both of you doing right now to kind of get yourself ready for when wrestling is, back up and going? Like, obviously you can't really wrestle, but you could still, like, I see a lot of wrestlers like kind of like working on their character work, promo skills, or just kind of venturing off and doing other things. Like I'm seeing a lot of wrestlers on Twitch streaming, working on YouTube, doing all these kind of side projects. So just tell me, like, what are you two, or are you two doing anything to kind of like tweak your character or just anything like that?
Well, the school that I trained at, the Diamond Mine, actually just opened back up, so I'm able to train again. Besides that, I'm actually a trained dancer, so I dance to keep in shape these days, especially since the gym has been closed. I've been dancing. I do pole fitness, so a lot of stuff to stay in shape. Cutting promos in the mirror is always fun. And then lots of podcasts to kind of stay afloat.
Yeah. Definitely, like with the podcast and all, that's still something that you could do actively to kind of like keep your name out there. And just like, I mean, for me, it's fun, like just chatting with wrestlers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure, like, you all have fun chatting too. So, what about you, Gia?
For me, it's more about like seeing things that like I'll watch on like a TV show, or because I personally I like watching a whole bunch of shows. Like I don't know why, but I started watching the show called Bring It, and it was something that my mom watched before she passed away. And like watching that show, I feel like it has a lot of funk and whatnot. So that had to keep me reminded that I need to keep my funk that I used to have, or still have, or when I get back, like just to have. And while watching stuff, I'll be like, like their stuff, like their dance wear, they look really good. And I'm like, what if I could wrestle in that? So like my mind goes to that, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's actually nice. So while like watching those kind of shows, I get ideas to where like, okay, if I come back, maybe I could be this, or maybe I could change my hairstyle to that, or maybe I could find some nice looking good gear material and wear that for a change and whatnot. So I'll watch shows and I'll just like jot things down on my phone. I'm like, okay, like make sure you wear this with that to make this look good, to bring this out, and then boom, like, So I'll just be thinking of things. Like I think that cutting promos is a really good thing, because on the MCW student page, we have like our promo coach. His name's Nat, and he'll give like advice on what we could do to like stay in character, or things that we need to do so that I guess you could say we don't get bored and just sit on our butts and whatnot. And he helps out with that. And I think it's nice to just keep things in the back of your head to where if you come back, you're like, oh, I thought about this. Let me try and see if this works or not, and go from there.
So one thing I wanted to ask you too, because I know prior to everything, you were supposed to wrestle at Ring of Honor for what was it, some kind of like women's tournament. Is that still in the plans, or?
Oh my! I'm so sad because I was told that it was gonna get rescheduled. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I am hoping like soon, because I feel like I haven't been able to showcase myself like the way I want to within Ring of Honor, and that's just how I am. I felt like that when I first joined MCW. I was like, okay, I wrestled like maybe 2 or 3 times. They still haven't seen the best of me. That's how I always feel, and I want to be able to show them like, okay, this is Gia Scott. Gia Scott is awesome. We need Gia Scott. So that's how I wanted to show myself in that tournament, whether I win, whether I lose, as long as they got to see the best of me and be like, wow, that girl is awesome. I honestly don't know when it's coming. All I can do is just prepare for it whenever it comes back. It could be honestly within the fall, the winter, or maybe even next year. But I'm going to be prepared for it because they're going to see Gia Scott either way.
Exactly. I'm really excited for that. I'm going to try to make the trip, assuming it's still in Philly. I think that's where it's supposed to be. Or...
I hope it is, but if not, either way, I'm still going to do my best.
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited for that. Now, Amber, I got a question for you. I kind of brought it up on our last podcast. Is there still plans for you to return to MCW one day in the near future?
There is a conversation in place. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a conversation in place.
I know Gia over there looks pretty excited about that. It's like you're like her dream match, basically.
I'm just me. So.
So I know like MCW does like, do they ever do like surprises, like have wrestlers like show up without being announced? Kind of like, like
yes.
WWE, they'll do like Sting return and it wasn't asked, like they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
See, that would be like a really cool scenario, like if Gia, like you retained against Arya or, or someone, and then, here comes Amber coming out, and then you had that stare down or something like that to set up.
I've legit had this like conversation in my head like 1,000 times. I'm sorry to say that. Like I've literally been like, okay, what if this happens? And then Amber comes back and then boom, and the place explodes. And I'm like, oh man, that'd be awesome. Like okay, so I've talked about this within my head. I've talked about this with my boyfriend. I've even talked about this with my wrestling friends before. And they all know that I personally want this because when the first very event that I ever went to for MCW, it was Booker T was there. I don't want to say it was in Dundalk. It might have been in Dundalk, but it was called the Green Room. And so I went there and I saw all these amazing people, and then like I'm gonna feel foolish for saying this, but my uncle, he still is a big fan of Black Wall Street. So when they first came out, he was like, what? Wait, what? Black Wall Street? Okay, Black Wall Street. And I'm like, they're so mean, they're so nasty, they don't even like them. We Black Wall Street. I'm like, I ain't no Black Wall Street. So I remember coming out and I remember seeing you for the first time. And I was just like, she's so mean. She doesn't want to touch anybody. So I'm just like, why is she being so mean to us? I remember I was like, if I become a wrestler, I'm going to sue her. So I remember I was just like, I told my uncle, I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a wrestler because I want to be her. So I remember that I made it my goal because I was like, I want to face all these women in MCW and whatnot. And I remember Amber was on my list. Kimberly was on my list. Renee Michelle was on my list. Mandy Leon was on my list. I was like, I want to face all these people. So when it got the opportunity where I signed up to be there, and there was like, okay, you know, what do you want to be? I was like, I don't know. I was like so shy. I couldn't say anything. Like my promo coach Nat, he was just like, okay, well, we're gonna try this. He picked out one of the guys from SOS, Moses. He was like, we want you to personate her what she's trying to be, and he did, and he did it much better than me because I was scared. I was so scared. But I remember that when I heard from a friend, they were like, yeah, Amber, she's wrestling again. I was like, what? I was like, he's like, yeah, she's wrestling again. I was like, no, please stop playing with me. Y'all know this is a thing for me. And they're like, no, seriously, check this out. And I checked and I was like, oh my God, it's just the wrestling gods, they've spoken. Like, this is a dream come true. So I was just like, oh man. I was like, okay. You know, pester Dean and RJ about this. I really want her to come back to MCW. I don't care if I won or if I lost. I just wanted to check it off my list because I was just like, I wanted this for a long time. If I could go back to my 15-year-old self and be like, you face Amber Rodriguez, she'll be like, he's lying to me. Like, why are you playing? But it's just, I don't know why. It's just something that I want. It's weird to describe, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, but it's a weird thing to describe that I've really wanted for like a long time since I guess I was 15. I'm like 21 now, and it just complete me on the inside. But like, I faced Amber, like my long time like dream of doing, and then I got it, and I would just be happy about it. No matter how it goes or how it happened, I'd just be happy about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, I'm not a kid, but I'm a big fan of Randy Orton. I would love to have a match versus Randy Orton. He can. I'll take an RKO. You know, it's just like you get it. Like I understand it. Like it's someone you idolize wrestling, and you know, and then now you're wrestling. It's like, oh, I could actually face this person. Like, how cool would that be? So, who would be the heel?
For me, because it's like that's the feeling I had watching Mickie James and Mia Yim in the green room. And then fast forward a few years later, it was me and Mickie, you know, main eventing. It's like, what is life right now? So I get that feeling.
So, like, describe to us, how was that feeling? Like, you're fighting Mickie James. Like, did it go through your head during the match? Like, I'm actually doing this. Like,
yeah, I wanted to throw. It was crazy because it's like you wanna impress, you know, you don't want to be that girl that ruined Mickie James's life. I don't know. Like,
no, I totally understand.
Yeah, so it was a lot of pressure, and it's like I have to deliver. Like all the nerves and feelings you get, like it was like times 35 because it's like she is literally the reason I'm here. So it was crazy, but it's like you gotta push all that to the side. You gotta suck it up, and you gotta do your job because it's like you can't let the nerves get in the way to where you screw something up, you know. So, but to answer your question, it was a wild feeling. It's definitely something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah, like, I mean, kind of different scenario, but like when I had started this podcast, like one of my goals was like getting wrestlers on the show and interviewing them. My very first, you know, talent that I had on the show was Sophia Lopez from Wow Women of Wrestling, and you know, I'm interviewing her and she's talking, and at like for a few seconds I just kind of went into a daze, and I'm thinking like, I'm interviewing like someone on TV, like I was like froze for a second, like holy smokes, like I'm actually doing this. So it's like I get the feeling, that you're talking about. Just like it is an amazing feeling, but it's like when once you start like doing it, you just get used to it and all that. But if you two had a match versus each other, like who would be the heel, who would be the face, or would you both be face, or?
I don't know. That's the weird thing that I was what I mean by like talking about it in my head. I was like, okay, who would be heel, who would be face? I was like, I don't know. I would leave it up to whoever. I think at that point I would just be screaming off the top of my head at the fact that I even got the match. I was just like, I don't care. I got the match. I don't care. I got the match. So I wouldn't even know, honestly.
I think it just depends on what's going on at the time, like the best way to just kind of tie everything in. And I feel like for me, I'll probably end up being a babyface by default after having been away for so long. And it's like everybody loves a good comeback. I don't care who you are. Everybody loves the good comeback. So.
And like sometimes I feel like it could just be like the promotion that you're at, because like Gia right now at MCW's face. So like when Trish Adora came there, she was heel, but then the next month I go to another event and Trish's face. So it's kind of like maybe it's just kind of the location you're at, kind of.
Well, at first, what was happening? At first, because during the beginning of that Future Honor thing, I was heel because I faced Amy. And then they switched me to being face because of what happened at Tribute to the Legends when Arya hit me with the chair. So we're like, we can't have you heel. We got to kind of have your face. So that's the reason why I went back to being face again. But it's tricky. It's hard. Like sometimes like the fans will flow with it if it has like a really good like what's the word I'm looking for? Like I can't find the word, but it like if the fans are behind it, they're like, oh, okay, I can believe it. The story, yes, I'm sorry, the story. If the story is believable, people will get behind it and they will support it, no matter like if it kind of came out the blue. If it's like a reason behind it, they're like, oh, okay, we kind of get it. So, yeah.
So now this is a question for both of you. I wanted to ask this to you during our last episode, but MCW, like, do they have rules with their heels and faces when it comes to like going out and interacting with fans like prior to the matches? I noticed like you, Dion, and Tommy are always out there, and Bobby and Robbie, but I never see the heels. Like, do they not allow the heels to do that?
No. I would say okay. So I had a problem with this in the like early year of my career, or basically the whole entire point until I turned face. So when I was first like face and then quickly switched to heel, I wanted to come out, like kind of interact with the fans to kind of get those little butterflies out of my stomach a little bit before I went out to the match. But my coach was like, you can make that like fine, like if you're a heel, you're a heel, stay in that mindset. So I'm like, okay. So then whenever I would see like some people like to name off, like for instance, like Tessa Blanchard or The Miz or Kevin Owens or stuff like that, they would like Tessa, for instance, she would be nice to people, even though that match she was a heel. She would meet the fans and she'd be nice. So I'm like, okay, I'm confused, but all right. But then that one time when we had Joey there, he was a full-on heel the whole entire time, and I was just like, so am I supposed to follow that suit, or am I here to see us? So should I be nice? I don't know. So it was kind of a hard thing to do. But then once I got switched to face, it became so much easier. I could interact with the fans and I could say hi to them and I could greet them, meet them, and whatever like that. So it was much better than to have a conflict with myself. So I felt better afterwards.
So like,
Yeah,
Amber,
it's definitely it's weird because yeah, these people pay to see you, but it's at the end of the day, it's a job, and it kind of goes back to kayfabe. You know what I mean? Like, if you're flipping people off in the ring, I wouldn't expect you to be shaking hands and kissing babies after that. So when I was there, like it was just kind of one of those unwritten rules for heels. And personally, I didn't mind it because like I don't like interacting with people. I'm not a people person. I have real bad social anxiety. I'm very socially awkward, so I do not like interacting with people. It's like, I appreciate you buying a ticket, but I'm gonna stay back here.
See, I'm the total opposite of that. Like, I could start a conversation with someone and it could seem like I've known them forever, which is why whenever I'm at MCW, like, say, for instance, maybe the doors have opened maybe 15 minutes ago, I could come out and I can, like, see a little girl and she's, like, looking at me, but she doesn't want to come up. And I'll spot her and I'm like, are you afraid of me? And she's like, no, I'm just shy. And then, like, I break her out of her shyness. So then when intermission comes in, let's say I've had the first half, I had my match, she comes over to me and she gives me a hug and we're like instantly best friends. So like I can talk to people in a way to where like I can get them comfortable. So I believe, I guess I'm the total opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like something I really noticed too, because just like Amber, like I'm also very socially awkward and I have anxiety and all that kind of stuff too. So like I remember the first time I met you, I walked up, hey Gia, good luck in your match, can I get a picture? And that was it. But then like the second time I met you, because after that I had already interviewed you on my show and all, we had do the video for the shout out and we were just talking and you kept talking about like Kurt Angle coming up in that upcoming event. It's just like it made me feel so comfortable because like clearly like you're a really big people person and it makes the fans feel like more connected and more like a part of the show. But like going back to like the heel and babyface interacting with fans, like I feel like every wrestler is different because when I interviewed Ronnie Nicole, she had mentioned that because when I went to Primetime Wrestling, she didn't have a merch table. And I said, oh, yeah, because she said, oh, you should have came up to me and said something like, well, I was looking for you when all the wrestlers were doing the merch. And she said, well, since she's a heel, it's kind of like an old school thing that heels don't do like merch tables and stuff like that.
It's dying out. And I get why, because we need to make money. So I get it. But it is dying out.
Yeah, so like I mean, I'm one of those people like I understand that when new wrestlers are in the ring, they're playing a character, heel or face, but like I'm like totally fine if you're a heel in the ring and I meet you in person, you're really nice. Like I actually like that. Like I've had so many wrestlers on the show that I've seen as heels on like TV and then I'm talking to them, on the show, and they're like the nicest person in the world. And I think that's like a really cool experience as a fan. Because I mean, realistically, when you're meeting a wrestler that you're a fan of, if they're a heel on TV and you or in the ring or whatever, and you meet them in person and they're like an asshole to you in person, it kind of like ruins it. It's like, yeah, I get that's who they are in the ring, but it's like I don't want to experience that for myself, kind of thing. Like, I mean, I don't care if
it depends though. Because there's like people like Danny Jordan, for example, like she literally writes insults on her 8x10s, which I love. I'm obsessed with her, but. I feel like it just depends. Like if it's done tastefully, like something like that, then I don't know. I feel like there's a difference between just being a complete a-hole and just like playing up your gimmick, but still being like human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I totally like that's basically what I'm saying. Like if you're being a legit like jerk, yeah, like that's very distasteful. Like if you're kind of playing a little into your gimmick, that's cool. Like you mentioned, like writing little insults on 8x10s, I would have no problem with that. When I met Sasha Banks back in early March, I had asked her a question about, challenging Bailey for the title, and she kind of went in character. She's like, no, that means I have to work, I make a lot of money not working, like stuff like that. That's cool, but like I heard a lot of horror stories about like MGF, and how he is with the guy from AEW.
Cool. So like I remember the time when he was at MCW, I was scared to talk to him because it was my first time like ever seeing him, but I was like, he's really good. Okay, so I think I was sitting by the big TV at MCW, and it was we actually have two TVs, one by the stage and another one kind of by what we call the bird's nest. And so we're just sitting there, and then like someone pops up a chair next to me, and I look over. I'm thinking like it's one of my friends. I look over and it's MJF. I'm like, oh crap, should I leave? He sits next to me, and this is just how the conversation went. He asked me if I had some gum, and I was like, oh, this is awkward because like I wish I had gum because I would have given it to him, but I don't usually carry gum with me. I did start carrying gum with me because I realized that a lot of people were asking for gum, so I was like, oh, I'll just carry gum sometimes. But I was like, no, and then he was just chatting among everyone else, and I was just like, oh, he's not as bad as I thought he would be or out to be. So like, I don't know. There are some people that I've met where like they've been a heel on TV or they've been like a heel when I've seen, and while meeting them, they are what they are when you see them on TV, and I'm just like, this is not what I expected, but okay. But I do understand. Like for me, when I first decided that I wanted to become heel, I wanted to make my character intense, but I never wanted that intensity to fall into like the real me. I feel as though for Gia, like she is a part of me, but I don't want her to always be. I want to separate the two to where like, okay, Gia and this is the real me. I never want them to combine themselves together because I don't want to be made out as like a jerk or a hole or anything like that. So I always feel like you can always separate the two if you're willing.
Yeah, see that's what I like, and like I said, like the fans, we understand that, it's a character in the ring, and like being able to separate that allows you to be who you are in the ring, and it allows you to also be yourself outside of the ring, and we like that, because it makes you more relatable, and it actually makes people more of a fan of you. Like that's how I became a really big fan of some of the wrestlers that I like in like WWE. I'll give you a good example, Ember Moon. Like when I found out she plays video games and she's like this big geek and nerd and stuff like that, I'm like, this is me. And like, you know what I mean? And it makes you say, hey, like we have the same common interests, yada yada yada. So just like being yourself outside of the ring, just this in general just makes you more relatable to the fans, and that turns them into bigger fans at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I think that's all the questions I had for you both. Do any of you two have anything that you wanted to add to the show?
Not that I can think of right now. I don't know.
All right. All right then. Well, I think that ends the show then. So thank you so much, Gia and Amber, for joining us today over here at O-Face Wrestling.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. Do you all want to share your social media real quick before we go?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook at Amber Rodriguez, Twitter at Amber1 Rodriguez, and Instagram at La Reina Renegada. Have fun spelling that.
For me, everything is kind of the same. For Instagram and Twitter, it will be the Gia Scott.
All right, so make sure you follow both Gia and Amber on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'll put, the links for your social media below in the description. And then just make sure you give us a subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Thank you all for tuning in today at O-Face Wrestling. And once again, thank you so much, Amber and Gia, for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, bye.